Gonna be normal, basically sync podcast since we're in basic mode. I'm gonna turn on the background. I need to turn on the background show.
Just check.
Yeah.
This is gonna be maximum jank without
A
her,
bit, but it's cool.
without the mighty producer.
So what do we got
Okay,
going
so it
on?
looks like we're live, so we're good.
We're live on YouTube and everything now.
Yeah, dude. Oh, God damn it! I think I used the wrong banner. Oh, this is maximum jank.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, so I guess we'll just kind of go through this like our normal sync, right? Because we didn't do that today. It's this week. It's ABF and merge, right? But mostly merge.
Yeah, I
So we got.
mean, just Before we go, I know we're missing a face today. Unfortunately, Bit is just dealing with some stuff personally, health stuff. So he had to kind of take some time off, and so now that leaves us two of us to hold the fort. Chat, almost just having, as he kind of said, just one of our kind of usual meetings, but now I guess in a more of a public capacity. Um, yeah.
Yep. People can join in. You can see it on Twitter. Yep. 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 Yep.
Cool.
So I think the main thing for this week is basically taking the gas off ABF's or letting it kind of reach a resting point and transit. Pivoting most of our attention to merge. And you want to talk about your brother's doing the artwork. He's handcrafting kind of pixel art. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have him doing the artwork, stuff like that. So that's all kind of exciting, and we'll see how that all goes. Working with him has been great, and yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit distracted right now because I just saw Azura tweet on chain SVGs.
Oh, what's that about?
So they have like a creating experience, and it's literally 40 minutes ago. I'm gonna have to
So
send it
Zora
this.
Engineering.
Uh, uh, I don't know which one of them they are.
Okay, yeah, okay. Oh, introducing on-chain SVG. So you can. Okay, is that all it means? Is that you can upload an SVG? That's all they. Is that all they're saying?
I do not know. I
And if they
It
mean,
certainly looks like that from the video.
yeah, I mean that's cool. But what do they mean by on-chain? Let's find out, right? Like,
So yeah, so it sounds like it's like a one-of-one experience, and you store it 600. Oh, that's massive! 668 kilobytes. How much would that cost? I guess should
what's?
we one of us just share our screen? Should this
Oh
just
yeah, yeah. Let me share my screen. Hold on. Fucking hell. Yeah.
high quality?
Okay. So introducing on-chain SVGs. Where the fuck that means? And then I'm watching this video. It seems selecting file, upload, edition size, start end time. It doesn't. Okay. Okay. There's no extended details about really. What? Oh, there's like a generative option. What is that? Little nouns classes. You see that? If you know, you know. Looks like these guys are iteratively upgrading the site. So I mean, this is a create Zora site, and then what is the Zora code site? Pretty much the same.
Yeah,
Um,
so these are to an extent, I assume generative is kind of like 721.so's ArtKit tooling. Um, it probably is the same pragmatic design. Okay, so I'm gonna go find
but
an SVG.
the concept of uploading an SVG and then trying to actually get it as a to return out, like get it in a contract function, it's not that trivial, right? Where you could just put it
Sorry,
in.
say again.
Like, is it that trivial to create to deploy a contract where it's outputting just a raw SVG, or are they just storing the entire like?
They're
And it,
storing literally. They're just raw
then
dumping a string, I assume.
yeah, and then if that's the
Um,
case, I mean that's just extremely expensive, right? There's no like construction process.
it's curious. They charge 5% on primary sales.
Oh, are they
Um,
subsidized?
No, they're not subsidizing. You're still eating the fees, but it's interesting that it um, that it's take 5% on your initial cut because I guess because you're using their GUI to create your NFT.
On all primary sales, interesting. Okay.
So that's interesting. I can see why. But I mean, obviously, I'm not a
Uh,
fan of
it's
them
kind of
taking.
it seems kind of unnecessary unless they're doing something interesting in the back end, right?
So I just tried a 1.33 kilobyte SVG, and it's costing about 0.05 gas, which in current price is about $70. I don't know if I have a bigger SVG to put on chain. Uh,
Whoa.
okay, so I got a 19 kilobyte one. Let's see what goes on. Because I mean, like, to be fair, with what art blocks can do with like people uploading pretty massive JavaScript dumps,
Yeah.
I it's
See,
within that reason. It's
yeah.
obviously like we're doing on chain, but we're gonna do it a little bit more of a smarter way than than
You
this.
you could use SStore to the raw dump also, right? That would be slightly more
That is
efficient.
a that is the best raw dump way, I think.
That's probably what
For
they're doing.
most for large sizes, right? I think there's like a 128 byte minimum or something like that. Like there's like a very small amount of bytes. It's better to do store one or the like the more normal version.
Yeah. Yeah.
But other than that, it tends to be the case. The store two is better when it comes to saving money. Um, but yeah, well, I put a 20 kilobyte thing, and now the thing is kind of holding up. It's stuck. um,
Okay. Good to know.
but they're pretty much saying like 25 kilobytes is about your limit of that size of your SVG, which is
So do you think do you think in terms of the language of how they're gonna describe the differences between how these images are stored, like how much differentiation do you think we'll see? Because like I said in the beginning, right? So what does the on-chain part of it mean? Because people have been calling can get away with using that word in a lot of contexts, right? So
yeah. You know what's freaking annoying is like there's every marketplace has different like almost grading scales
yeah,
on their metadata. Like I know that OpenSea has this idea of like frozen metadata, which is just their way of saying like whatever that metadata is not ever changeable. As in like if it's an IPFS link, there's no like set base URI function that somebody else can at a later point modify the metadata, right? So they have a quality of frozenness that they care about. But then there's like apparently, I guess in their case, they need to have now a language to uh, suggest effectively it's on chain.
yeah.
Um,
They're gonna have to come up with some like quick words
so
differentiate between like IPFS stuff and then like raw SVG and then a constructed SVG and then like other stuff, obviously more advanced construction. Um,
so see like I like I'm gonna be honest. I don't have a problem if it's not on chain for something like this. Like just like a standard open collection. Like a foundation, if you will. I don't have really a problem that it has to be on chain. You as an artist, you're paying a lot more money to put it
yeah,
on
I
chain.
mean,
But
it's up to them. Unless they have a stylistic purpose, right? It's up to them.
yeah, where I think we're really coming in on the perspective that like we go on chain because on chain is there's no other way that can get us the features we want, right? Versus cool, we're on chain and pray and cross your fingers that somebody cares. I think there's a
I
it's
mean,
obviously we
there's.
hope to market right
You
is
don't
on
think
chain, but
from a buyer standpoint, like so, like imagine if you're back in a bull cycle, right? You're trying to convince like a skeptic, like that is going to be a defining selling point. I think on chain versus IPFS for
Well, I think
buyers.
it's a hard thing to communicate,
Yeah, it
kind of
is.
a
That's
thing.
exactly. Yeah,
It's like, you know, if I can sit you down for like an hour, I think that's a good thing to lead into eventually. It's like
it's like a. I'm trying to
on-chain
think.
is actually not a data pointer anymore, but you
Like a
know.
big collector. Like if I'm trying to think about the next wave of bull cycle, it's probably gonna have even more onboarding of traditional art collectors into this space, right? And for them, probably the selling point is going to be like, all right, how does this provenance thing work? Let me fully wrap my mind around that, right? And then they're gonna come to the conclusion or the deviation between like the IPFS stuff and actual on-chain stuff, right? Um,
Yeah. I mean,
I
like it
think
kind of goes into like how much social provenance matters or cares. Like if there's a day where like say which board punk
maybe not for the well for market performance in terms of the launch of a project. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's an irrelevant type of factor. But for large purchases, right? Like new big wig collectors coming in, it's like they're gonna much rather go for an autoglyph versus, in my opinion, a board apes, right? This is just what my intuition is over time. Well, board ape
what's
is on
that's a
chain, right?
hard, yeah, you know, that's an interesting one. So
They get it all.
say if autoglyphs has the same amount of supply as board apes, but it's like, so like I'm trying to say, like if it's apples to apples, but the only thing that's different is one is on chain, one's not.
Yeah, yeah,
I'd prefer the on chain one. But in this case, in realism, autoglyphs is a much smaller supply
yeah.
than board apes, and that does
Make a
tilt
difference.
the make a difference, a massive difference, because it's like if I were to buy an autoglyphs, I'm gonna be honest, I'll be surprised if I can find a buyer in 2 years. Like that market is so small. Like
Yeah,
it, but like you're
exactly.
probably, it's not the kind of like, oh, somebody just like happens to come around and want to buy it. It's more like you may have known somebody that is really rich and wants to take it off your hands at a good price. Kind of like it
Which
feels a
is
lot more personal, which isn't a bad thing, right?
which
Like
is how a lot of these big wig collectors do
yeah,
operate.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So
Why
it's like not apples to apples, right? Like if I were to own a board ape, it's like I
that's what,
expect not to know who is going to buy my board ape when I sell it,
yeah.
right? Like that's just a given, right? But with an autoglyphs, it feels like, you know, I'll probably know who's the
Yeah.
next owner,
It's
right?
all
Like
yeah, especially low cap anything. You're gonna be doing dark trading, right? Obviously. So like
yeah, and I think the lower the cap, the more the on chainness, I think, you know, puts that sophistication ceiling needed to make that work. Um,
board apes they did dump right the full JPEG or no, or was
no,
that crypto?
they're doing the provenance design. Pretty much board apes, CryptoPunks. Don't think any of those are on chain.
Okay. Well,
They all
CryptoPunks.
use like a provenance design, but then
Okay.
like
Okay.
Artblocks is the same case, right? And so I think it like if you were to look at current market, I feel like it's hard to say is like, or like, because like the most expensive NFTs are like they crack the 100 ETH kind of range, but of all the 100 ETH cracking ones, like there's not a lot that are on chain.
Well,
But then you could say it's like maybe in 4 years from now when there's
yeah.
bigger and bigger players, I'd imagine the
'Cause I'm trying
circumstances
to
of the market changes, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because there's gonna be we can think about like I guess the immediate short term market activity of how that would work, and then like long term patterns. Probably, yeah. It's like I think people would want provenance is gonna become more and more important. I think in the future, especially as a selling point for crypto, right? It's like you're not gonna want to be ecosystem locked. I mean, this is the promise of all this stuff, right? In general. I mean, I would hope so at least, right? It's like so, like I guess in this type of scenario, right? I'm a big wig collector. It's like I can buy board apes in bulk, and you have exit liquidity, especially in the short term. But like if you're going for the long term, like old money play, it's gonna be a little, like you're gonna be
It's gonna
thinking
be
about different.
weird, yeah, yeah.
Be thinking about different things, like old money's thinking about different things. So
I think, yeah, if I feel like if I'm gonna have to pretty much pass down to my next generation an NFT, I would pass down an autoglyph. I'll say that much. Like I'm not passing down a board ape. That board ape is gonna become Ethereum, and I'll pass Ethereum at
yeah,
down the pathing, right? Like,
exactly. You want the most universal or like collectible asset. Yeah. So,
Like I feel like in to draw ideas from uh as you because you were kind of really getting my brain going on Providence. I feel like a lot of art that are really historic and has had to go through so much human conflict and human instability, especially I think a lot of European art during
yeah,
two major conflicts and even also the Iron Curtain to an extent, like to a level that Providence being able to hold and imbue that art with like knowing that this this thing had to go through so much crap, like I think it adds to it. To one and two is it places it like a little bit of a higher stature than I think other classes of artistic pieces to an extent, right? And I think if I were to own one of those things, I think I would treat it differently than if I were to get a contemporary piece. um, both in part because I not to say it's better, but its providence is more rich, right? And there's a and that richer providence I think would make me look at it differently, right? And then I think other people would also look at it differently, right? Versus like, oh, cool, this cool artist made a cool contemporary piece that everybody thinks is cool is gonna buy, right? Um,
yeah. I mean, there's like I see it's like pretty two radical sides of the spectrum, right? It's like you as a collector. I mean, you could be doing both, but I'm just saying both sides. Like
I
collectors will,
think like smart collectors will do both, right?
yeah, they will do both, and they will look like it makes sense to buy the historical pieces, but then you're always watching the cutting edge stuff. But most of the NFT space is focused on the short term, like what's the next thing, what's the next thing, right? Less emphasis on establishing history. I
Yeah.
mean, all it's been only a year, so it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, yeah. It's been. I really wonder is like there could be a day where there's like an IPFS issue or whatever, and some like we haven't seen a black swan event when it comes to metadata loss. Um, so in my eyes, I think there's a really big perceived safety around IPFS, as if like we all know it's not permanent, but people pretty much assume it's safe, right? Like
I mean, but see, it's a larger question of data permanence for mankind, in my opinion. Like, really,
sure,
that's
right?
like we don't actually have to deal with that, thinking about that shit. For normal businesses, don't have to think about that. Normal people don't have to think about it. This is the only time where people start thinking about like, okay, how permanent is this data, right? Because
Yeah.
it's in the context of selling something for a long time. So, I mean, EMPs are like a real thing that can happen, right? Eventually, like that's not out of the question.
Yeah,
And
like a solar flare just nukes everybody.
or even weapon systems deployed right in the wrong place, the wrong time. So like,
Or that's where
and
like they're just saying like we're gonna be anti-fragile, right? By just whatever the
yeah,
data is.
it's, and then
Um,
yeah,
but it's like like data permanence, right? Like in that sense, it's like you needed to be as permanent as the NFT versus being actually permanent. You know what I mean? Like we all have an assumption that the Ethereum blockchain probably will live for a very long time. Like I won't be betting against it dying probably in 10 years, right? Like
yeah,
so at a minimum your IPFS mandate better not fucking delete itself in 10 years, right? Like this is a very contrived example, right? But like you need it as permanent as a selling medium, right? Like that's our grade more than it is like, oh shit, this piece of data is designed to like outlive 100
well,
years, right? Like
yeah, like even for Ethereum nodes, the same. I mean, for nodes in general, they've been doing that, right? Trying to put cold storage backups and like glaciers
yeah,
and shit like, like um, yeah. So yeah, you just need it as permanent as the chain is, and even less one step lower than that, above that. So you just need it as permanent as your project is, which most of the
which is
project.
like I think a lot of people are not willing to even say that, but that
Yeah,
like there's a lot of truth.
yeah.
Uh, in that and
But when you download or like when you buy an app, you don't want to feel like what's it feels so much better buying an app that you know is like a pure utility that will never like be upgraded
yes,
into shittiness, will never like die like be abandoned in in an even
yep.
shittier state by its developers or like it's like it's not going to change, right? It's like that is a valuable app thing, I think. So
That's one of those things I miss about modern gaming. Like I remember where I buy a game, and it'll be like nothing. Like I know the game what it is, and it's I'm not getting fucking like shoved down my throat more purchasing actions.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I know that like I used to use a delivery app on my iOS devices, like, shipments. I remember buying it for $3, and I was like,
Yeah.
"This is good." But then like last year, they fucking like said like, "Hey, we're switching to a subscription model." It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
$2 a year. I'm like, "Oh come on!" It's like I bought it for $3 as a perpetual license almost, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be sustaining that. Like you don't need to change anything, and I didn't want to have anything changed. Right? Like $3 for an iOS app, I think is pretty above market because most things are
Yeah.
99 cents. Like, um, but it's a bummer, right? Like, um, but yeah, like I've heard like other stories. Like there's like people who would like buy. There's like a lot of cases of TeamViewer being a dick because like you were used to be able to buy perpetual licenses for TeamViewer like that. It's like the app that you can remote into a desktop, but it's like
Yeah.
it's locked to the version that you bought it at. And now they have a lot newer versions that are all like SaaS based, so they're like pretty much like trying to like call you, email you, trying to force you to get off the perpetual to get new features, but like shit worked. Right? And I imagine the same case maybe with guys with like Photoshop CS3 4. They're like, I don't want to be on Creative Cloud, and like my license works, my work doesn't need anything newer, like why upgrade?
I mean, I was just watching a video, the Lex Friedman podcast with John Carmack. John Carmack's like he's currently the CTO of Oculus, but that guy is famous for making like Quake and Doom and all that shit. So he was like the OG.
Oh shit,
OG.
yeah.
And I just think, and then there's the clip I was watching was just something about the relationship between Elon Musk and this guy. But I'm just thinking there's probably a lot of less good lessons to take from the video game industry in terms of like, I guess, the discipline from start to finish, zero to wanting a project with no, pretty much zero guarantee of success or recoup of investment in any capacity. And, and then, I mean, but also they're not really doing subscription model. That's only like a recent. That's only in a very limited scope. Still, the models retain like discrete purchases, right, of games and whatnot. So
Well, the thing is, like those SaaS things, like they're filthy money makers, right? Like,
yeah, yeah,
right? Like, like VCs love that shit,
yeah.
right? Like, there's actually a thing that I'm not doing more, so I'm researching just to learn how it is. But like, there's like actually websites where people are just selling their SaaS businesses, and it's like it's almost like a marketplace, like eBay, but you buy SaaS businesses.
The whole business. The whole
Yeah, the
business.
whole fucking business. You just buy the whole business, and then the crazy thing is like then they even have a connection to Pipe, which is literally an acquisition, like a firm,
Right.
but for acquisitions. It's
Oh
literally
shit.
just like a financing app,
Yeah, yeah.
and I've seen, I know people who actually like. It's kind of wild what they do. It's to me, it's just like they applied the thinking of DeFi, degening, but into owning businesses. So they would do is say they want to buy this SaaS business that offers content creators on TikTok XYZ, right? And it says as like a monthly profit of like $250,000, right? But then you need to make a down pay, like the whole business. They're saying I'm selling it for like 5 mil. So what you would do is say, hey, you go to Pipe, and Pipe is a big okay, cool. You want to buy this company, no problem. You can do it in two ways. Either you can put your own credit on the line and buy this, or two is you can sell us future profit, right? Future revenue, right? So 250K a
Shit.
year, they take 50K a month for 12 months. You put up a down payment of like 200,000, so they cover the rest to buy that company, and you bought the company, and then you have to give away probably 2 years worth of your revenue, like 25% of it, to cover the mortgage or whatever that you just purchased. But then you just now own a SaaS business, and there's people who just like who works like at Facebook, and all they do behind the scenes is just like go on these marketplaces and buy 2 or 3 SaaSes and gives them like a passive revenue thing. Right.
What is that? What is that website called, dude?
Oh man, I have to go check my emails because I get emails from them all the time. But
There's
yeah,
like
people are like been like promoting this like this is a hack that you can access to like make online businesses without making online businesses. Is like Sure, like it's like to me it sounds like a lot of work and management. I'm still because like for
Yeah,
some of them, like you're not buying a team. You're just buying a company that has customers, and
yeah,
like the team they're just like wanted like to fuck off, right? Like they just wanted an exit, all right?
yeah.
Like and then you have to go and probably build out a team there, which is like
Yeah, it
that's
sucks.
quite a bit of. It's called microacquire.com.
What the fuck, dude? That's some SF only shit. Never would have heard of this. Like, startup acquisition marketplace.
So
Wow.
you can buy like e-commerce stores. You can buy like
Total
SaaS.
anonymity? Why do you need anonymity in buying a company?
It's like kind of like it's like late stage AngelList in my eyes. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
right like it but it's interesting to see like how much like I don't think this company would have worked without Pipe because like
yeah.
Pipe is pretty wild where you can like very it's pretty much like leverage purchasing at that point, right? Like like it's let's
Yeah.
see. I actually think I
That is
remember somebody I
actually
used
really
to
pretty
know
cool.
that worked at um few
Wow,
folks that were
interesting.
pretty crypto savvy. I remember at Pipe.
Yeah, I mean,
But
certainly looks interesting. Very interesting. What is
yeah, but it's like this is kind of wild stuff, right? Like it. Um, and dude, I'm like 100% certain that like there's gonna be a future where there's gonna be like neobanks. Maybe it's like Silvergate, where there's like their customer base is exclusively just rich ass crypto people,
yeah,
like of the range. You occasionally have to sign, let's just say, like a message saying that this is your wallet and this is how much assets you hold, as a way of doing like a credit check, and then they just
yeah,
give you like standard mortgages. It could be commercial mortgages or even personal mortgages. Like you want to go buy a fucking like house, they just kind of like a credit assess you against your crypto collateral more than your standard credit score. Because I don't like. I'm gonna be honest. My standard credit score, I have no way to meaningfully make it better because I don't have an
yeah,
income. I just have to pay credit cards. That's all. If that's all I got to like boost my credit, and then if I go to when I'm gonna go to BOA and it's like, hey, here's my wallet, of random things that you don't even know what they are and you can't even regulate. It's just like it's gonna be hard to get a mortgage, right? But like I can
yeah. I mean,
see
there's
if Pipe
certainly,
things can exist, they can as customer
yeah.
base.
For our case, like we won't be able to really buy houses and shit until like those firms start getting specialized. I mean, there are more real estate
Sure.
crypto
I mean, like,
exchange.
yeah, we can do cash purchases, but like, that's the dumbest thing ever to buy a house at 100% cash. Like, you should always be buying it with like a down payment, pretty much, if you can get one
Well,
to
you yeah,
access.
well you always will need to pay in cash probably anyway, and then get the mortgage pretty much immediately, right? Get the financing immediately after. So whatever way you can do that, so you'll need two
That would
firms
be a
basically.
refinance, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, you would need one crypto firm to be able to process, or the real estate firm to process the crypto to real estate, and another firm to provide you financing for against your crypto. So yeah, I think that. But yeah, I
Well, the
mean, people have
financing,
been dealing with this for
you're
last.
like, kind of like, dude, I can't wait for the future where you're just like, you have like you're a client to like this entity, this banking financing entity, and they're like, you want to buy this house or down payment, and they just like send you like a send USDC here to make the down payment, and then it's gonna be settled, and then you go through the whole standard like title company bullshit to get a house, and it was like cool, and then you use like Anchorage project to bounce your money. Like I think it was
Yeah,
pretty it was really weird for me when I was like I had a friend started the company, decided to invest into it, and it was just like
yeah,
Anchorage and USDC to this address, which for me is like I don't freaking own enough USD ever to want to just
yeah,
bounce that much money. And I was just like, wait, USDC,
yeah.
no problem. I just went on Compound, drew that much money, and just sent it. And I was just like, for me, that was absurdly intuitive. And I didn't have to wait like a week long wire transfer. I just had to like wait 60 block confirmations and was able to
Yeah,
invest in like internet money, dude. It's like,
that's the multi-sig company, right?
is it? I don't know what Anchorage does to be honest. I just know
No, I
they're
think
like kind of like
you, know, you
institutional.
you invested in
Yes, yes. It's yeah,
sweet.
yeah. I'm
Yeah,
not.
so I mean,
I don't want to say the name of it. I don't know if I can, but like,
it's
um,
whatever. The like, well, right now, the process for real estate. Real estate is interesting because it only works really well for the high net worth stuff right now, where they're willing to jump through all the hoops to move that kind
Yeah.
of. I mean, because people have been dealing with this for some time, right? Because Bitcoin's been around, and there's a lot of Bitcoin rich fucks who've been buying
Yep.
big properties. But they just need to they just need to scale that process down, where you can buy a normal house quickly. Would you send the USDC and all that stuff over, because like I mean, what's happening in Texas is hilarious because essentially the builders are holding both the agents and the custom buyers hostage, right? Because builders have full choice. Because that's the thing with this type real world things, you can't treat it like a DeFi protocol. You're gonna be more like adversarial than you think, right? So whether that's lumber increasing all of a sudden and then they're charging you more,
Yeah.
right? If you don't pay within X amount of time, you're going to give it to someone else who's ready.
Yeah.
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 So
I mean, it comes with time, right? The more people that have crypto and want to finance with crypto, there's just more customers. Somebody's going to fill in
yeah,
the power vacuum, right? And I know that at a commercial level, like there's already companies like Silvergate.
it's
Um,
crapping out. Dave, can you hear?
I can hear you. I don't. Can you hear me?
Okay, are you back? Was I frozen or are you frozen?
I think you were frozen. I don't know. One of us was frozen. We'll flip a coin.
Yeah.
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 It
One day I will have to buy real property and real things, and then deal with that.
yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but I mean, like the beauty is like we're young enough where we can wait it out, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm in no rush to purchase a property, so, um, so yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like it just would suck to have to like try to convince your credit worthiness to a more tradfi kind of company where you're like, well, you know, none of my assets are recognized as credit worthy by you, so it's like, um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fuck it. Fuck it. Yeah, I mean, really, the big problem is that you can't do traditional loans that are not collateralized via DeFi because it's too. You would have to do it centralized. You would have to KYC everyone, and then their
Yeah.
funds. There's no way. There's no way to really demand repayment from a protocol, right? So yeah,
Yeah, if the guy can bounce, he can bounce, right, without any penalty, right?
yeah,
Um, um, hmm, yeah. Well, but that, I mean, it's gonna be just a matter, I think, of just of like just different kind of sophistications and product lines, effectively financial product lines that will start to come to form. Um, I think it would be interesting to be pretty much saying like, hey, like your credit worthiness is pretty much assessed on your like compound positions. So you're just like, okay, like you have this much ETH, you need to make a down payment of XYZ, and you have to make a mortgage payment at a monthly cadence of this price and this APY, and they just like generally look at your compound, and they're like, okay, this is our risk assessment. Here you go, buy a house. um, but I feel like we're only maybe one or two bull markets away from such a thing existing. Um,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then I think we would just have all the parity and the love that the traditional TradFi has, but for us also as access.
What is the market cap of Ethereum? Market cap, coin market cap. I'm just curious because how far does it have to go before it has any kind of promise of stability? So it's at 28 trillion for Bitcoin, 28 billion, 28 billion, 17 billion. Okay, so it's got to go to. Okay, it's got a long way to go, right? Basically, Bitcoin's got to go. So I'm thinking like cash market is 10 trillion, right? So you need to reach at least like I don't know half half that to have like any amount of stability, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see how it goes.
'Cause that's
Yeah.
what
Have you
keeps the U.S. dollar stable is really the mortgage market or any of these lending
the debt
markets
markets, right? Yeah.
keeps the currency stable. So, uh, hmm. Mhm.
Yeah. There's a whole subject matter you can go into the dollar theory, but not for today. There's like a recent news thing I just saw on Twitter is Moonbirds specifically now has made their they changed their licensing, their IP licensing from whatever it was before, which meant the before one I believe was the owner owned license of your NFT, to now I think it's CC0. So it's I
Anything
guess
goes.
anything goes kind of a license, and I think there's been a lot of frustration going on that like people were
Our
like
license,
buying
yeah,
rights and shit like that. Um,
for our stuff, the licenses we own art, or is it CCO?
I think we have a derivation of the NFT license, which is pretty much a pretty liberal thing, but I don't think we give it out fully.
Okay.
I think there's like a up to use when it comes to commercial stuff. So yeah, so up to 100K in revenue each year is the standard is the NFT license for us.
Okay.
Um, as we yeah, so we abide to that. I think that's kind of our defaulting more so that like I don't really consciously think of it all the time, but that's usually is our default. It becomes a problem when your NFT starts getting worth a lot more money and people actually care about the
Yeah, yeah.
licensing rights, but like we don't quite.
You could change at any time, right? And retroactively.
Yeah,
But
it's just like if you change it in a way that's undesirable for collectors, they'll get mad, right? But that's what's going on with Moonbirds, is they went from like a more advantaged one to a less advantaged one for our owner.
what do people expect is going to happen? They're going to sell T-shirts of their like specific one. Like, what do they think is going to happen?
I mean, I think where people were trying to do what like Bored Apes did, where like some people were like creating like what like restaurants, shit like that, right? Around their Bored Apes. Um, but yeah, I mean, for us, it's like we really only care about is art, and
Yeah,
we believe that we worked hard for our art, but we also don't. We also believe art is really derivative, so we value people being derivative. So um,
yeah. So one of the
I think
most
the NFT license is the most agreeable one. Like
yeah,
for
one of the most constrained projects is Cool Cats, right? Or and Doodles, or either one of those two. As in
I
like
want to say
Cool,
Doodles.
yeah, is very specific about how their characters represented because they almost view it as like a Mickey Mouse type
Yeah,
situation.
I
So
believe Doodles is one of those cases, and there's another one that's escaping my mind. Um, fuck, I don't remember. Um, but yeah, so it's interesting because I don't think I'm gonna be honest. I don't think people are there's a lot of sophisticated players out there that are purchasing NFTs, assessing
yeah, but
commercial rights yet.
people should not care about like I want people to be more have less inhibitions about what they can and can't do with the whatever they feel like doing, you know. So
Yeah,
you want to make some deviant art around this, feel free. You want to make some a restaurant, could give a shit, but sounds sick.
yeah. It's like to me, it's just like we went all this way to make a fucking NFT, and then you slap on some Web 2 legal shit on it again, and it's like
It's super weird, yeah.
it's just to me, it's just like it's kind of muddies the qualities of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Because you know what, I ran into who's the Board Ape guy who owns 50 Franklin. So I ran into his lawyer at AFS, and he was explaining to me like he handles all like the merchandising, signing, and like he used to be like some big record lawyer dude, you know that kind of
yeah,
guy. And then now he's helping Franklin try to commercialize his 50 apes more than they already have. So, and then he was the same guy who made that stupid ENS uh, uh, like what did he try to do? He tried to sell an ENS to himself or something, or he left a old bid on.
oh yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. I don't know. It makes me feel like there's just too many business monkeys now in the NFT space. Not enough just artists being funky and being artists.
Yeah,
Um,
business monkeys.
and for us, it's just like, I don't know. I think the best art is meant to be kind of stolen in some ways. Not to say that you should rip off somebody and say claim it your art, but like I think all the good art is literally the inspiration of prior stuff that you've been looking at, and so it's like it feels very counterintuitive to the creative things.
I wonder what the next generation of like stuff's gonna be like, right? So obviously there's a lot of pre NFT things like in it, Instagram, Deviant Art. I'm trying. What else kind of things do you think of in terms of visual or digital things? People creating a lot of original content with nothing. Tumblr, I would say another big example, right? Xcopy was originally on that.
Yeah,
Um, like how much of that stuff's gonna fold over? Are we gonna see or yeah.
like what do you mean by fold over?
Because like I'm trying to think of like how many more native. I mean, there has to be, right? It's a stupid way of even saying like how many more native ideas are left for crypto specific, or yeah, for let's say crypto specifically or NFT specifically, and how much of like weirder kind of like the early stuff. People used to make weird websites back in the day and like as art experiments and like or just weird web experiences, and
Yeah,
or just Instagram like stuff on Instagram, whether that's like a video or glitch effects or something. Or people used to experiment a lot with hardware. Like I sent you that mycelium thing, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That guy was using analog effects, an analog processor, and then re-recording it and then putting it back into a digital file. So like obviously people have done that before in NFT world, but more of that shit. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
No,
I
it's a
mean,
vague question, or like versus like how much very specific things to NFTs are people going to make? I don't know.
well, we obviously hope that there's a lot of specific stuff that's our livelihood as a business.
It's like
um,
we're focusing on that direction. Like what is everyone else doing?
I just don't subscribe to some of the general ideas that like we want to copy pasta a lot of old thinking into NFTs. I think that maybe there's a part where eventually that will happen when the space has matured to a quality that it can do that. But I feel like if you actually want to incite another bullish area, then we have to kind of track new ground that NFTs just are the more excelling medium to produce with.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Um,
that's our hope, right? It's like we're going to be
yep.
inventing that new genre of what NFTs actually look like.
Yeah.
It's gonna be lots
Like
more.
I feel like like I kind of get sometimes with like Zora is like they have like a little bit of like a Tumblr vibe to me,
Yeah.
where like it's not as like capitalized as like I think Twitter. I mean not Twitter. Sorry, Instagram just feels like literally like commercial marketing, the social media platform where it's just like influencers putting random things down your throat. Where I think Tumblr has this more just whimsical quality of
Yeah.
its digital media. I think Zora's kind of fitting in that kind of weird way, but like I don't think they're hitting any of that kind of like comparable numbers that like puts them
Yeah.
really
Maybe
meaningfully on the map.
most of the NFT people in this space are in kind of like the social media mindset where like everything's a feed and like you're just. I mean, the PFP thing is kind of a vein off that, right? It's literally a
Yep,
profile,
yep.
but and then obviously we're talking to people and more people are going down the game develop mindset avenue, and then that's probably the correct direction. I mean, that's ultimately what we're doing too, a different approach.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
which like I don't necessarily fault the current thinking. It's more just like this is just like you got to start from here. You got to think about these things before you think harder. I think to an extent, but like I
yeah,
think this is where also you're seeing like the contraction of the markets is like, yeah, like this was cool, but we haven't really pushed further yet. And I think the next time we're gonna start pushing to the point where it actually does open a lot more buyers and volume into the system. But right now,
yeah.
I think
I
it's
mean,
just like,
like probably like our initial approach potentially is like or maybe some other people's approaches would be like translating physical interactions to a web experience, NFT experience type thing. um, in
Yep.
whatever in whatever way that actually turns out. Um,
No,
yeah,
like 100%, because it's like right. We like all most, if not all, NFT contracts is only transfer, right? Like
yeah,
now that we're actually finally in a place where we have the technology to open up other doors other than transfer, I think it makes a lot of sense that we have to visit actions that we're familiar with, which comes from real life, right?
yeah,
Um, and so yeah, I think that's makes a lot of sense. And maybe there's going to be a future where they create all new kinds of actions that are not strictly derivative of very natural things, but that's a little way too far out. I don't think it's worth any productivity to think about that yet. It should just be about a little bit like people haven't figured out until recently. I think how the hell do you even do simple stuff as like equipped an NFT?
yeah.
Um,
This is just riffing off an idea here. It's like, there hasn't been, well, most of the time that each NFT individually is valued, right? Individually within a collection. And then what if you could make a collection where the value is more related to the owner's collection of how many does he have and what is he doing with them, basically. If you could make a collection that's
hmm.
more values more aligned in that direction than by each individual piece. Like, and then I'm having a dumb idea. Think about this. Like, you remember playing with Circuit Sim, right, in college?
Circuit what?
Circuit Sim, when you have transistors and gates and AND switches, and obviously you can layer them until you can build out whatever the fuck you want, right?
I
And,
loosely know what it is, but I was very softwarey in my college experience.
okay,
So
okay, but it's like, AND gates or gates. I mean,
sure,
and
sure.
all these gates are just combinations of transistors, right?
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Power. So like, if you had each component as the tokens, and you had to collect some amount of tokens and then arrange them to perform some kind of interaction or computation, it would be, I don't know, cool.
Yeah, that I mean, I know I am trying to think about this one. It's like that's a really interesting one.
Because you could do it on chain too, right? It's like where you have to, so you do the configuration via some UI, and then you submit submit that on chain, and then it can maybe go through each NFT and perform the computation in
Huh.
like one call. Yeah.
The market's so dumb for that shit. You know, like I'd love to do it. Maybe it's like a public thing that would be cool to just experiment at that level, as a smaller scale, and then see if we can scale it bigger.
You ever use circuit builders when you were a kid? Like your parents get you a kit and your
But
light
like the
bulbs.
toys, I think I've definitely, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. So
Um,
I would love to make shit like that because I loved that when I was a kid. I was obsessed with electronics when I was a kid. So like, yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's like I remember when like the 1155 standard was kind of produced. It was like so much of like a silver bullet to like now you got composability, you got encryption, and all this kind of weird like interesting things, and then the NFT space just like literally just reverted back to 721s.
yeah,
Like the standard just never took traction. Um, which I think there's a lot of reasons beyond just the space didn't want it. It wasn't a great standard, to be honest. Um, but yeah, like it's just like it's just yeah, it's gonna just I just feel like we're gonna have to continue just the space just needs more people willing to build crazy NFTs without thinking about its floor price.
yeah.
um, and frankly, to God, I do think Tezos during the earlier like the buller market had that energy. I don't know if they're I don't know if I feel like it's a ghost town maybe right now. I don't know if they're actually have any relevant developers there anymore.
Wait,
I haven't
which place?
Tezos. I don't know if they're very active right now. I couldn't say.
Dude, I
Um,
see Bitcoin Cash and Tesla sponsoring like jujitsu events and shit like that. I'm like, what the fuck? Where is this coming from?
Wait, how does that do a value add to their bottom line?
Dude, why is Bitcoin Cash on like the number one grapplers in the world's like shorts? I'm like, Jesus Christ. What happened?
Dude, it's so weird how like crypto marketing works in this world. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows?
But yeah, I mean, like it's gonna be interesting also to see what was that thing? With like I just recently learned because I don't really do on Solana NFTs. I do own a few Solana, but their biggest marketplace actually escrows your NFTs. Magic Eden
Magic Eden has an escrow
on
service.
C.
Oh,
It's not escrow service. They all your trades are escrowed. So like
oh,
when you sell your NFT, you have to transfer it to a contract,
why do
and
they do
then
that? For like
I
enhanced like control or something, maybe for them to have more control.
I guess so, but they also don't really have their like price gas fee problem. That's why we don't do it really that well here on our
Yeah.
on the worlds of ETH. But apparently, there's like some amount of contention that like apparently like Magic Eden, the company, has like a fucking back door to every escrow.
I mean, you would, that's
I
a
wouldn't. I'm
very,
not. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not surprised when I heard that,
yeah, very
considering
reasonable
Solana's, but
accusation of like, yeah.
like, which is just like, oh well, that's a sure. Um, Huh, I just literally saw something with like Ape Father on Magic Eden. um,
Man, A Father's
but
life, he's really glowing up, dude. Good for him.
yeah, that's awesome. Um, guys, like the guy has a magic ability to tweet stuff in a way
Yeah,
that
68K
gets
followers.
reactions.
Holy shit! What was it like when we were kind of? He was into London now, so he was at maybe like
I
3K
think he,
or more than that.
yeah.
3K. This is so
He
so
was
much.
about 5 to 6, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, something like
Um,
that. It was high, but like 70K is insane. Now it's so sick.
yeah, he's doing like the whole Ape Mafia thing. I think that got him really all on the map, but then also just making your brand around Bored Apes kind of gets you to places.
Of course, yeah, of course.
um, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's cool that he's wilding in those certain ways, and yeah. Um, the Web3 Renaissance is what Zora is marketing. But yeah, I mean, like, we could chat a little bit about Merge.
We should.
Exciting
Well,
stuff.
Verge, main thing, make it relate to difficulty, curves, time, and this will be first pixel art and a non-gender abstract piece by POV, which is a huge deal. And
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited for that. It's yeah, it's gonna. I spent like the morning just like literally figuring out. I was like, okay, with our design, how do I translate the input, which is images, into this massively wild format that we need to ingest to on chain to produce the NFT art. Um, and yeah, it's a challenge, I guess, but it's gonna be fun. I'm looking really very much so looking forward to when the collection is released. I think the minting experience will be fun. It'll be new. I think the art will be fun.
fun, very fun.
Yeah, I think everything is gonna be fun about it. Hopefully. um, but yeah, and then like I was already even thinking like a little bit about other projects and how they would be using some of the technologies available to it, to merge, and um, yeah, that got me really going. Just thinking some of the stuff could be pretty wild, given that we can employ class of renderers that are uh, designed to do some stuff for that. But yeah, I think I'd love to do more like text based generative NFTs at some point in my life, where like it's just not about the image, it's more about the text of it. Um, and I think renders is actually a really great vehicle for some of those ideas. Like I keep on thinking like, what if like I was like proposing to myself like, what if we had a like uh, a renderer that's like a that's literally just a neural network where you feed in like a word and it attempts to generate 12 words relevant to it in like a language, right? And the neural network being just like a very simple two-layered whatever, or very simple three-layered like symbol design that we trained off-chain, but we put it on-chain, the values. And the renderer's only job is literally just to give you input sample data and it gives you out, I guess, like a poem or whatever, right? And that could be really wild. But
You know, yes, yeah, I would like to see some kind of merge between the generative art space and kind of like the fashion scene too, in terms of the pattern. Well, for patterns, it's known for a long time that they used to hire generative artists to create those, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, Now for the maybe for make it more complex, not just patterns, but like construction, other things, like the same way we design PFPs, the design clothing like that. That would be interesting. Um,
That would be cool. Yeah, hell. Um, yeah, I mean, it's like, I feel like we've heard so many people pitching. It's like, you gotta add physical stuff, utility to your NFTs. I'm like, sure, that's cool. Well, show me it, and they're like, yeah, this is pretty much Ticketmaster but shittier. It's
yeah,
like, oh, like that's a bummer. It's like I'd rather a little bit more of the stuff being pushed, the qualities of bespokeness or whatever, the artisanness, and just be more
yeah.
creative. And even in the physical level, like I just feel like people keep saying that's the silver bullet, but I don't even in such a way I haven't even seen really anything meaningful to think in that innovation direction.
I mean,
Um,
manufacturing one of ones, or a combination of things, is a pain in the ass, right? So like it's going to be very limited scope in terms of like how you can
yeah,
provide.
so I wonder, it's just like if NFTs can capture like your capital markets, like say like this is what, like a bespoke suit. I think it's a like a cheaper bespoke suit. How much is that? Like 20 maybe K? Am
Yeah,
I just shooting a number out of my ass right now? Like
I don't know.
um
Suit costs.
right,
Uh,
so like with current ETH prices, that's like a 10 ETH floor, right? At production cost. Right. Um which isn't half reasonable to have an NFT that has like a redemptive like one of one manufactured experience if it cracks like enough of a certain price floor or something like that. Um but then again, like now, but I just like, yeah, like original Zora was all about physical stuff, and that never worked for them. And there's some really good stuff that you can get there, but like it just lost a lot of the speculative nature there. So it's like the standing philosophy with physical stuff is like more of that Azuki kind of jacket thing. It's like
yeah.
you don't speculate on the jacket; you still speculate on NFTs. The jacket is kind of like a way to tie your physical presence to the world a little bit more, right? To the Zuki world a little bit more. Um,
Yeah, I mean, so
where
you could, if you scoped it down. So, like, let's use an item that has low utility, but still medium utility. So, like, not okay. So, like a blanket, or like my example that I like the Muay Thai, because they're very stylistic. The patterns that are used on
yeah,
that. So it seems like a natural thing. Whereas, like, you could make a one of one iterative manufacturing process for shorts, especially if it's embroidered and patches on it, because you can swap those out easily.
yeah.
And now that's medium utility. It's not like a jacket where it's like, all right,
Yeah.
it's like you got to meet
You know
certain.
what? I think the
So
problem. I think the problem is we're all the space is too impatient.
yeah,
Like we all care about at the end of the day the hype cycles is like you cracked a 10 ETH floor from 8 ETH in 12 hours, right? Where if you were to do like something with a physical component to it, you're just gonna need more maturity. You just need more time for that market to mature in and start developing the components and whatever is needed to sustain like a market. And I don't see like something that has a lot of physical nuances to have the market have the kind of degeneracy speed that maybe the more PFP stuffs have. And I feel like because we work in such a capital fast market, like there's just not enough teams that are willing to be patient enough to see it through. I think, or like
Yeah.
we're going to create a soft physical presence kind of experience, and we want to see through how this can become something that has a speculative component but also a material presence, right? Because I do think that thing is just something that you got to slow burn it more than any NFT
Yeah.
in current modernity, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you
And
need
I'm literally looking at Unisocks right now to see what they're doing right now.
you need unique circumstances to make it work. I think that's pretty much what it comes down to, right? It's like, which is all projects and all ideas. So
Oh, dude, a Unisock is worth 32K right
really,
now, USD.
Jacob was flexing with those in the Coinbase IPO video. I remember. What
Man is
a
literally wearing 32K free hackathon socks. He
yeah.
was wearing it. So here's the interesting thing: is there's 301 tokens still available. 200 of them have been redeemed into
Okay.
physical socks.
Yeah.
So
So 100,
currently at its pricing range.
but they've probably been redeemed at a much lower price, right?
Oh yeah. Like, dude, if you had 32K sitting around,
Why would you buy socks? Yeah, there's no
I
resale value for those socks. Like you can't resell socks. That's like the most unresellable thing. It's like
yeah, the
underwear.
moment you wear it, it's like
Yeah.
you burnt it effectively, right?
Yeah.
Like it. 32 freaking K. That. You know what's gonna has to be wild too is for this to have 32K, there has to be a fuckload of ETH just locked in the AMM right now, just to support a 32K price, right? Like
That's true. Yeah.
somebody's liquidity providing for stocks right now.
Yeah.
I don't know who. Like that's wild. But man, if you had 33K, like you could buy like 33K of uni tokens.
Like
Like I'm not even saying that's a great investment, but like
literally anything else except socks.
I don't think I don't think a lot of people are buying this token, right? I
Nah,
hope not. Maybe.
I don't think so. It's like it just memed into existence. It was like the first major, like successful one, right? Which
Yeah.
makes sense why. But hmm. Clothing.
I would argue is the only one that really genuinely that successful.
Yeah. But Azuki jackets, like we won't get them for months, so it is kind of like unless you have a project that's willing to put up with that level of delivery time, it would, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. I don't. Maybe it becomes a part of the status quo where if you want to have bespoke experiences, you shouldn't be expecting them with like commercial level speeds. Like there's going to be more of like a if it's like again, this is me coming out of my own ass. I don't think you're gonna be like walk into a bespoke suit, they measure you, and then you get the suit the day of, right? Like it's almost like you have to go through maybe a few visits, maybe choose your cloth or whatever, and then it's like a process, right? And I feel like if that just becomes a norm with more physical stuff, because like I'm gonna be honest, I never liked those kind of like what do you call those things? Like stores, like effectively scaled stores. It says like connect your wallet, we'll put your PFP on a mug, right? Like it.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Right. Like those things don't really feel genuine to me.
yeah. It doesn't it's just all secondary, right? It's like getting an iPhone case not from Apple, same shit.
Yeah, and so I don't know. It's like a lot of undiscovered things and quantities that the more I'm like feeling we're in the proper bear market, it's like there's so much stuff that we don't know before we can have a healthy bull market and not just a bull trap. I think there's so many things that we just need to explore, experiment as a space.
Yeah. Well, I think
And
too, it's like it's more fun for people to explore when you're successful, as usual, right? So it's like the only people who are left standing right now are all the people who are already locked into whatever they have been doing, So
yeah, and so we'll see, right?
Like
But like,
Matt
right, like,
guys probably have normal jobs and they're just gonna put out something else like whenever they feel like it, like much later. But you know what I'm saying? So it's not like
dude, I feel like more and more by day as the bear market gets more bearish. It's like we gotta hold the line. We gotta hold the line here. We gotta hold the line for those creative
yeah,
crazies that like are willing to dare to do things. It was like, when was the last time we heard something like Emergence come out, or even like a Math Castles? Right? It's
yeah,
been so long where we just like completely off the cuff, random,
people
really experimental shit, right? And you like you know, I feel like there was a time where like a Mars Meyer style like highly experimental project would just come up every 2 weeks, right? Like it. Um, but at this point, it's just like, you know, bearish realities, and we're one of the few still standing with the balls to still try. So um,
yeah,
we'll see how
yeah.
this all
So
goes.
merge will work and then ABF will work and then and then Finster will also work and then we'll be smooth sailing from there on out, hopefully.
That's the hope. That's the hope. Right.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's a reality to it. It's like the bigger you get, there's just shortcuts. But it's a weird way to even use that word. Really, would it mean you can take more risk in terms of artistic nature of things, right? Which it's everyone's goal to get to that as fast as possible. So I don't think it's. I don't
Yeah,
think.
it's like I think it's like,
Yeah.
I think dependent to how you constructed your stakeholder system. If you get bigger, sometimes it ends up becoming you got to stay on the money on the formulas.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think we're in a place that just wasn't our design as a stakeholder model. Like if
I
we
think.
get bigger, we get crazier, get
Yeah.
funkier, get weirder, right? Um, and I think in that process, people will start to learn a little bit more. In the sense, it's like, okay, like when you speculate into the proof of beauty work, you're speculating on the craziness. More, you're speculating on sound, comparative PFP style like economics. Sometimes, like I think there's a lot of misconstrued thoughts sometimes, or to like, why aren't you taking more pages out of the PFP book? And we're like, well, that's not why you should be coming here for, coming to us for, right? Like, um, we do wild things, and we obviously designed them with an intent that they have some amount of sound economics, but you know,
Yeah.
dare to think. But anyways, it's cracked an hour.
Yeah.
We held the line without Bitwizard today.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts? If not, I think we can call it out, call it
Yeah.
a, a Friday.
Yep. Friday. We'll be doing stuff over the weekend as usual. So
Yeah,
yes.
busy weekend.
Cool. All right. Well, you guys know where to find us for the most part. So we'll see you.
Yeah.